Are you an iPhone or an Android user? Well, if you have an iPhone or even just know someone with one, you might be a victim of Apple's monopoly. Apple currently owns 70% of the smartphone market in the US. And this isn't based on merit or because they have a better product, but simply that they know how to insulate themselves from any competition. I mean, if you've ever used an iPhone, you probably realize that there hasn't been any major upgrades in a long time, and they're pretty much incompatible with any other device. So if you buy an iPhone, you're pretty much basically paying for a product that doesn't have any major improvements from the previous one. But this soon may change since the US Department of Justice might force Apple to stop taking advantage of its consumers. In March of this year, the Justice Department filed an antitrust lawsuit against Apple for the monopolization of the smartphone market, which violated Section 2 of the Sherman's Act. The Sherman Act makes it illegal to monopolize or attempt to monopolize a market. The case claims that Apple illegally maintains a monopoly power over smartphones in order to milk as much money out of the consumers as possible. Instead of responding to competition with lower iPhone prices or better monetization for developers, Apple has used a series of shape-shifting rules and restrictions in the App Store guidelines and developer agreements. It's funny how in 1998, Apple's co-founder Steve Jobs criticized Microsoft's monopoly and dirty tactics in operating systems to target Apple, which prompted the company to go to the Department of Justice in hopes of getting Microsoft to play fair. And now Apple has landed in the same position with the Department of Justice. In this case, if the Department of Justice wins, it's going to mean lower prices for Apple products, more innovation, and better options for privacy and security for iPhone users. This will lead to a more affordable iPhone and iPhone upgrades that are actually meaningful. But for this to happen, the Department of Justice would have to prove that Apple is a monopoly in several different ways. The Justice Department claims that Apple reduces its competition for smartphones by delaying, degrading, and outright blocking technologies that would increase competition in the smartphone market. See, Apple would rather make products worse for consumers by blocking innovation in order to prevent competition. Apple inflates the price of buying iPhones while preventing the development of features such as alternative app stores, innovative super apps, cloud streaming for gamers, and secure texting. For the smartphone market, this means that app developers don't care to invest in certain apps such as digital wallets because they can't reach iPhone users. What's even worse is Apple doesn't even care to innovate since they've eliminated all competition. What's the point of making improvements if there's no other company to compete with? This is precisely why the iPhone hasn't changed much in years. Apple maintains its monopoly power in sneaky ways that consumers are unaware of. Apple's internal documents show that soon after the introduction of the iPhone, they began to fear disintermediation of its platform. Well, what does that actually mean? Basically, Apple was worried that they would be removed as the middleman between apps and services. So, to make sure they're always involved in the iPhone user process, they took control of app creation and distribution. Apple made sure that the iPhone and the App Store were the primary gateway to apps, products, and services by imposing rules and restrictions for app developers and users. They claim this is for privacy and security reasons, but the internal documents showed that the restrictions were to ensure that there was no competition for the iPhone platform. Apple continues to do this even if it means preventing the developments and improvements for users. What's even worse is Apple directs users away from products and services that compete with them. For instance, they increase the cost and difficulty to switch from an iPhone to another smartphone platform. This is done through several different ways, but subscriptions is a way that Apple does this through Apple Music, Apple Gaming, and iCloud, which makes it difficult to switch to another phone platform. If you try to switch to another smartphone, well, there's no easy way to transfer all of the things you have on your iPhone. Apple also places ads in its App Store to make you feel that its accessories such as AirPods or smartwatches are needed to enjoy the iPhone experience, which again further locks you into their platform. Apple also uses the same restrictions to get monopoly rents from third parties in the form of app fees and revenue sharing requirements. By doing this, Apple has slowed down the innovation of the iPhone to make more profit off the existing existing customers. Even with all the technological advancements that could have improved Apple products and services over the years, the company has pretty much remained the same. Apple doesn't care about market competitiveness because they've ensured that there's no competition when it comes to the iPhone. Apple also prevents users from accessing super apps since it would disrupt their monopoly power. Even though using super apps would make the smartphone experience easier for users, but why would Apple care about that? Apple has also prevented developers from offering cloud gaming apps that would reduce the dependence on the iPhone's expensive hardware. Apple has stated that they would fear a world where all that matters is who has the cheapest hardware, and consumers that could buy a Android for $25 at a garage sale and have a solid cloud computing device that works fine. Cloud streaming allows developers to bring cutting-edge technologies and services to smartphone customers, including gaming and interactive artificial intelligence services, even if their smartphone includes hardware that is less powerful than an iPhone. If users could use cloud streaming apps, then it would work well on any phone, not just the iPhone. But Apple would rather have users miss out on better apps and content in order to maintain its monopoly power. The DOJ also argues that Apple has deliberately disrupted cross-platform messaging and avoided creating iMessage for Android, so consumers perceive rival smartphones as being inferior. Most of us are familiar with how annoying it could be to send messages and videos between iPhones and other smartphones. There are improvements that can be made to cross-platform message to make it easier for a different smartphone to communicate with the iPhone. I'm sure many of us have messaged a friend or a family member with a different smartphone and experienced how slow and annoying it is. There are features to resolve these issues, but Apple just wants to make rival smartphone companies seem inferior. During a conference in 2022, Apple's Tim Cook was asked about this issue.
I don't hear our users asking that we put a lot of energy in on that at this point. And so now I would love to
continue.
I would love to convert you to iPhone.
Okay.
It's tough. Not to make it personal, but I can't send my mom certain videos, or she can't send me certain videos, and so we leave.
Buy your mom an iPhone.
All right.
Of course, Tim, let's just trap all of our family members into the Apple ecosystem for you. And have you ever tried using the digital wallet on the iPhone? Because they've maintained complete control over that as well. Apple Wallet incorporates Apple's proprietary payment system, Apple Pay, which processes digital payments on the web, in apps, and with merchants' point of sale. Instead of using your own banking app or any other digital wallet to pay for things, Apple inserts itself as a third party in order to make a fee for every transaction. But switching to a different smartphone would mean leaving behind the familiar Apple Wallet, having to set up a new digital wallet, and potentially even losing access to your credentials you had on your Apple Wallet. Whether you've had to buy an overpriced iPhone or have been annoyed with messaging people between smartphones, you've probably been affected by Apple's monopoly power in some way. While there are few flaws with the Department of Justice arguments, they have been successful with holding large companies accountable in the past, so we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, you can like and subscribe. It would really help out the channel. And until next time, thanks for watching.